Hi, welcome back. All right, so today we will continue a lecture about the cardiovascular system. So this is the last portion. We talk about the heart, we talk about the artery. This one is about the vessel, the veins. And so let me share my screen. All right, so this is the veins portion. Um So veins basically is the vessels to collect the used blood from your organs. Your organ use the blood to capture, extract the nutrients as well as the oxygen. So it's used. And then your organs also deliver the trash, such as the CO2 into the blood. And so you need to, those are the used one. Oxygen level is low. We call it deoxygenated or deoxygenized blood. And the CO2 level is high. And so those used blood will be drained from your organ through the venous system into the right atrium, and then you will transport those into the lung. You breathe the CO2 out. So that's the venous system. So venous system in our body basically it runs side by side with the artery. So whatever artery there, you will have a venous system there. You have the renal artery, you will have the renal vein. You have the liver artery, hepatic artery, you have the hepatic vein. So your organ basically has artery coming in, you have the veins coming out. But in our neck and the upper lower limbs, we have more veins than the artery. So we have the deep veins that go side by side with the artery, but we also have additional branches of the veins. They run superficial of the neck and the upper and the lower limbs. So they basically run just underneath your skin. Um, Most of the artery are not underneath your skin. It's more deeper, but those veins are running underneath your skin. They are not embedded in the muscle. So we have the superficial vein. We also have deep vein. Deep vein run parallel with the artery, with the counterparts of this artery. But the superficial vein is a new vein, is in addition to the deep veins. So superficial veins provide more vessels to collect the blood because vein usually flow much slower. So you need more of these vessels to collect those blood. They are just too slow, so you need more land to allow those blood to have somewhere to go. Otherwise, it's just too many and they run very slow. So that's first. And second is that with these additional veins, uh, they are in the superficial of your body, so they can bring those warm blood, even though that's used blood, but those warm blood to your body's surface. And so that can help with the temperature adjustment. Basically, your skin won't be too cold, right? Otherwise, there's no, it's is directly like influenced by the environment, but your veins can provide some warm blood over there. Yeah. So that's the systemic veins. This is the overview of the veins. Um, Basically, when we look at the veins, we can see that it has a big veins. The largest veins are called vena cava. So this large vein, you have two of them. One is called superior, the other one is called inferior. Uh, so right here, inferior. So you have the superior, you have the inferior. and their direction is to get the blood enter into the right atrium. So that's a primary one. You have the superior vena cava, you have the inferior vena cava, and everything like in the top portion of the body, the blood will drain through the superior vena cava into the right atrium. Everything below the abdominal, below the diaphragm, will drain through the inferior vena cava to the right atrium. So that's a primary, like the final veins before they enter into the heart. For the superior vena cava, it basically collects blood from left and the right brachiocephalic vein. So you have left and right. You also have some other branches. Right here, you can see this one also enter into it. So it's underneath, it's posterior to your heart. So basically behind your heart and behind it and go through the medias sternum, basically the central portion of the thoracic cage, enter into it. These veins is called it doesn't show you here, but it's an important azygos vein. We will look into that. So those are the primary veins enter into the superior vena cava. I think we can see that one over. So that's right here, azygos veins. Let me show you here. So here is the azygos vein right here. So if you take out of the heart, you can see that it runs posterior to the heart, go through the mediastinum into the superior vena cava. So that's the blood draining into the superior. There are some other veins right here, though this one is internal thoracic veins, and some other veins. They will go into here. This one is the mediastinum veins. They will enter into the superior vena cava. Yeah. So that is the. Let's go back to here. So that is the superior portion, the top portion. As for the inferior, basically all these organs, the blood drained from the organ will go into the inferior. So key veins I highlight here are superior vena cava, inferior vena cava. Superior vena cava has two branches, brachiocephalic, left and right. In the brachiocephalic in our lab, we also emphasize on this. Brachiocephalic collect the blood from the internal jugular vein, right here, internal jugular vein and subclavian. So this internal jugular into the brain, from the brain, subclavian from the arm. These two come together and they form the brachiocephalic. Yeah, so that's that. So that's highlights here. Uh, yeah. So that's and then the subclavian will drain the blood from the arm. From the arm, you have the brachial, so that's a deep vein. This go along with the brachial artery, and then you have the radial and the ulnar. Radial and the ulnar. You can also can see this superficial one. So you also have this superficial vein. So in the length, in the limbs, you have the deep veins. Deep veins go side by side with the artery, but the superficial veins are additional veins. They will go to the just underneath the surface. In the arm, we have two major superficial branch or system. Uh, right here. So one is called basilic. So it's go along with your the pinky side, this side. So that's the basilic. And the other one is on the thumb side. And that one is called cephalic. So that's two superficial vein. And then the end of the inferior vena cava, you have the common iliac, just like common iliac artery. You have the internal and the external. Internal collect the blood from the pelvic as well as gluteus area. The external collect blood from your leg, from your thigh, from your leg. And your thigh and the leg, you also have superficial veins and deep vein. Deep veins go side by side with your artery. So here you have the femoral. This one is a femoral vein. This one is deep femoral veins. So this we have the femoral artery. You also have deep femoral artery. So this goes side by side. The superficial ones right here is not labeling here, and we will look at those. We will realize those when we look at the leg. So that's the major veins. So let's look at the top portion here, the superior vena cava. So here summarize everything draining into the superior vena cava. So here is the right atrium. This one is the terminal of all the venous blood. Uh, it has the superior vena cava coming in. It also has inferior vena cava. But this flow chart only show you the superior vena cava. So superior vena cava collect the blood from three primary veins. It's more than three, but the three primary ones. Primary ones are three. We have the left and the right brachiocephalic. We also have azygous veins. So we mentioned about those. The right and the left brachiocephalic are like side by side, parallel. Brachiocephalic receive the blood from internal jugular veins and the subclavian. So subclavian, internal jugular vein merge together to form the brachiocephalic. Yeah. And then internal jugular veins is important because that is a veins to drain the blood from your brain. You also have the external jugular vein. This one collect here, but it's supposed to be into the subclavian. Yeah, so external jugular vein receives blood from the external, like skull, like skin, facial. Those are the external. Then they enter into the subclavian, and they enter into the brachiocephalic. We also have a smaller vein going into the vertebral, like vertebral right here, going through the vertebral into the posterior portion or occipital portion of the brain. Uh, so those are the vertebral veins. And so that's the brachiocephalic, and the subclavian will drain the blood from the arm. Yeah, so that's that. As for the azygos drain the blood from the thoracic wall. So thoracic wall, you have the ribs all the way down into the all the way down to the back. That is the vertebra. You have the intercostal veins, and so these intercostal veins will collectively all come into the azygos. When they're going down to the azygos, they're going into the posterior portion, and then they're going up through the mediastinum, and then they turn into the superior vena cava. So, so that is that. Here, the subclavian drain the blood from the arm. You have the deep veins. That is the axillary, and then going into the brachial, so that's a deep vein, then radial ulnar, so that's a deep vein. You also have superficial veins. Superficial veins are bacilli, And so it comes from the medial surface. Basically is medial means this is the medial because when you basically palms up is anterior. So this is medial. That's a good way to say it. Medial surface, not just pinky area, but medial surface of the arm. And the lateral is this side, the thumb side. That's the lateral. Lateral is the collected from the cephalic veins. So these two are the superficial veins for the upper limb or your arm and forearm, basically. Yeah. So that's that. So superficial superior vena cava collect blood from left brachiocephalic, right brachiocephalic, and the brachiocephalic receives blood from internal jugular and subclavian. And also the azygos. Azygos is another branch to collect blood into the superior vena cava. This one show you that association. So here you can see these internal jugular and this one. This one is subclavian. It go underneath the clavicle to collect together to form the brachiocephalic. And external right here, in fact, external enter into the subclavian. So external veins drain into the subclavian. And so internal jugular and the subclavian collectively drain into the brachiocephalic. So that's that. We also have another one, that's the vertebra. Vertebra going into more posterior portion, not just here, more posterior portion. And in some book, it says come between the internal and external jugular. But in some other book, it says it comes from the brachiocephalic. I think it's more accurate to call it from the brachiocephalic. Let me show you here. So in our textbook, this is the open textbook. All these three drain into the brachiocephalic, but it's not entirely true because external actually drain into the subclavian. Vertebra does drain from the brachiocephalic. So that's that. So here, that's more accurate. Vertebra terminate into the brachiocephalic, external terminate into the subclavian. Yeah. So that is about these vessels. Key thing here is the internal jugulars that drains the blood from your brain. So right here, so this is the most important one. The blood from your brain, because brain is an important organ, and we want to make sure that we have the good drainage. And that good drainage is the internal jugular or internal jugular. So quiz question can be, which of the following vessels drain the blood from your brain? That is internal jugular veins. Where does it drain the blood into? Where does it drain the blood into? Where does it drain the blood into? Yes. So it drain into the brachiocephalic and then eventually drain into the superior vena cava. Yeah. For the arm, the blood coming from the arm eventually going to the brachiocephalic. And so here, brachiocephalic connect with the subclavian. So after leaving the internal jugular, you see the subclavian. So brachiocephalic and then subclavian. Subclavian go underneath the clavicle. After leaving the first rib, just like artery, we call this portion the axillary. For the deep veins, which come side by side with the artery, we will have the brachial. So I use the blue box, blue rectangles to box them. Brachial, and then you have the radial and the ulnar. So that is the deep vein. However, in the arm, we also have superficial vein. So superficial vein in the lateral side, we have the cephalic. So you can see this cephalic all the way down here. Every veins in the superficial, like underneath the surface, all these veins, we call them cephalic veins. And on the other side of the arm and the forearms, in the medial side, we call it the basilic. So here you have the basilic. Yeah. So pretty easy to remember right here. Summarize it. In the arm, we have deep veins and the superficial veins. The deep veins collect the blood from the ulnar and the radius. They go into the brachial, then they go into a subclavian, then they go into the brachiocephalic, then they go into the right atrium. For the superficial veins, we have the lateral side, we have the cephalic. The medial side, we have the basilic veins. They will come into the subclavian and then coming into the right brachiocephalic, and then coming into the right atrium. So another vein is azygos. So azygos collect blood from the thoracic wall. So you can see that all these thoracic walls, this is the ribs, and the vessel between the ribs is called intercostal ribs. Intercostal vessel, we have intercostal artery, intercostal costal veins. They will drain the blood into the azygos right here, azygos, and they go very posteriorly, go through the middle, the mediastinum, and then they enter uh, into the superior vena cava. So that is the venous system in the upper portion of the body, and they basically all drain the blood into the superior vena cava. So this one show you we remove the heart because in the previous one, this one we also remove heart. So you can see the azygos right here, azygos, yeah. This one, azygos, and this one we also remove this one doesn't show you the arm, but we remove the organ in the thoracic. We open up the ribs, and you can see that superior vena cava, several veins coming into the superior vena cava, including brachiocephalic, as well as this azygos right here. Very posteriorly go along with the spinal column, very near the spinal column, go through the mediastinum, and then enter into the superior vena cava. So for the lower portion of the body, including the abdominal, pelvic, and the legs, their blood, abdominal right here, pelvic right here, internal right here, and the legs, all this blood will collect from the organs into the inferior vena cava. So here again, right atrium, that is the final destination of the venous blood. It collects blood from the superior vena cava and the inferior vena cava. And the inferior vena cava will collect the blood from all these abdominal, pelvic, and the leg. Yeah, so that summarizes it. So you can see that it has the hepatic veins. In the visceral organ, we basically has the artery and the veins go side by side. Yeah. And then in the end of it, you have the common iliac. Common iliac also have two branch internal iliac and external iliac. Internal iliac collect blood from your pelvic cavity as well as your gluteal region. Yeah. As for the external, it collects blood from your leg. So this one showing you for the internal, we saw this already, but we haven't seen the leg. So let's see the leg. Let's take a look at the leg. So here is the common iliac. It has the internal, external. External will go into the leg. It also has the deep veins artery. We have the femoral artery. We have some like deep femoral artery. For the deep veins, we have the femoral vein, just goes side by side with the femoral artery. Deep femoral, it goes side by side with the deep femoral artery. Deep femoral veins go side by side with the deep femoral artery. So those are, side by side with the artery. For the superficial one, we have this saphenous. So in the thigh, we call it great saphenous. In the lower leg, we call it small saphenous. So this small saphenous, great saphenous are the superficial vein. For deep veins, we have the femoral, and then it connects with the popliteal veins, and then you have the anterior, right here, anterior tibial, and the posterior tibial. So that's very much like an artery, the branches in the artery. So in summary, the veins in the leg, we have deep veins, we also have superficial vein. Deep veins collect from the anterior, posterior tibia, right here, deep veins, right here. Tibia veins, anterior and posterior, they go into the popliteal, they go into the femoral. We also have a deep femoral, doesn't show here, but deep femoral and the femoral. Then they go into the external iliac, and then go into the common iliac, and then go into the inferior vena cava. For the superficial veins, we have two primary saphenous veins. We have the greater saphenous. We have another one is called here. It called it laser, but we can also call it small saphenous vein. So right here, small saphenous vein and great saphenous vein. So that is the venous system of the leg. So that's basically summarize everything we need to know. So this one show you side by side the artery and the veins. So what do we get here? We get that in the limbs, we have more veins than the artery. So this one, we just look at the artery, which is femoral. This one is a deep femoral, popliteal. Then here you have the anterior tibia and the posterior tibia. So that's the primary one. For the veins, so you can see that veins go side by side with it. You have the femoral veins, you have the deep femoral veins, but we also have superficial one. So the superficial in the legs are here, this one. Or you can see it here, this one. Great saphenous vein. Down here, you have the, in addition to the gray one, you have additional one here. This is called small saphenous vein. So those are the superficial one. So after overall, in general speaking, in the limbs, in the upper limbs, in the lower limbs, we have veins run side by side with the artery, but we also have more veins to accommodate the slow flow in the veins. So to accommodate more flow, more fluid in the veins. Yeah. So this In addition, we also need to know one very interesting venous system, which is that um, after we absorb our food, the food will go into the small intestine. We absorb them in the small intestine. And after we absorb them, these nutrients will drain from this small intestine. And so these are veins because they leave from the organ back to the heart. However, in other organs, when they leave the organ, they will go directly into or trying to go through various collection, but eventually they will go into the vena cava. But they don't go into other organ; they go into vena cava. But for the digestive system, after we absorb them, these nutrients will go into the vein, but they don't go into the vena cava. They go into the liver. So liver receive additional blood. Liver does receive the artery, oxygenized blood from common hepatic, from the aorta to nourish the liver. But liver has another vessel, another group vessel to receive the blood from the digestive system. And so these vessels to receive the blood from the digestive system, we call them hepatic portal vein. So hepatic refer to the liver. Portal means like port, like airport. So we kind of can think about whatever we eat, it's the visitor, they visit our body. When they successfully being absorbed into the small intestine, we consider them arrived in our body. So they are like in the airport or like a port, ocean port. After they enter into our body, they get transport into liver. So we call it portal vein. Because this blood vessel doesn't come from the heart. So it's vein vessel, it's not artery. The blood flow is slow. The flow does not have high fluid pressure because nothing to pump it. It just slowly drain this blood into the liver, and liver will process what you eat. Liver has many functions. One of the functions is for detoxification. So reduce the toxin, the toxic stuff. Because whatever we eat could be, harmful to our body. Liver will detoxify it. One primary thing that's harmful to our body, but we still take it, is alcohol. So when you drink alcohol, it's harmful to your body. It will be transported through the hepatic portal vein. So we reduce their chance to damage the body. Instead, we transport it into liver. Liver will detoxify it. But don't challenge it. People drink too much can cause liver disease because that's toxic. So don't drink, basically. Don't drink alcohol. I never seen any good thing about it. Yeah. So that's that. All right. So that's summarize. That's basically end our venous system. With the following one, we do a little bit like a summary about the uh, vessel circulation or circulation system. And in this chart, we see the amount of the blood in systemic veins, in the systemic artery, in the pulmonary, in the lung, in the heart. in the capillary. Capillary is the smaller one. So what's capillary? So basically, let me see here if I can have showing you capillary. I think when we look at the circulation, the entire thing, we kind of get that right here. So this portion is the capillary right here. So artery deliver the oxygenized blood into the organ, and they will go through the capillary. It is very small, and so it allowed substance exchange. Otherwise, this vessel is very thick, so things cannot go through. But in the capillary, they will release the oxygen out. Tissue will generate O2, CO2, and then they dump into it. This is the place where you can do the substance exchange. Substance means O2 and CO2. Exchange means give and take. So blood will give the tissue O2, and the tissue will give the blood CO2. Yeah. So after capillary, the blood become deoxygenized, low oxygen, and it also become very CO2, has a lot of CO2 in it. Yeah. So that's that. In the lung is opposite. In the lung, you transport it right here. So CO2 goes out and it give you O2 because in the lung, you breathe in O2, you breathe out CO2. Yeah. So that's capillary. And among all these areas, you can see that systemic circulation, systemic veins has majority of the blood. Why? Because we have more veins. So veins is larger, and we also have more veins. So the majority of the blood are in the vein, not in the artery, not in the heart, but in the veins. Yeah. So that's that. So veins here say 60%. Yeah, depending on how you measure it, but key thing here is that the majority of the blood is in the veins. Yeah, so just remember that. Quick question can be, which of following vessel system uh, carry the most amount of the blood? The artery, the veins, the capillary is the veins. Okay, veins carry most of the blood. We have more veins than the artery. The vessel, artery, veins, and the capillary. So artery, the feature of the artery is that it's the vessels carry the blood from the heart, and so it has a high fluid pressure. And so in order to carry those high fluid pressure, the vessel wall has to be very thick, much thicker. Veins is a blood vessel to transport blood back to the heart. And so the flow over there is very slow. And also pressure is very low because it's the end. It's going back to the heart. So very much like river, like going into the ocean. So it's very slow flow. So high compliance, meaning that it can expand. The vessel wall is thinner, so it's easier to expand it. If you need to accommodate more fluid, it can expand. You know. Vessel wall also has valve, so we will look at that right here. So the artery and the veins. Let's look at this picture. We have this picture in the lab. The difference between artery and veins is that artery is thicker, veins thinner. Another thing is that veins has a valve. So when blood flow goes through it, it prevents the backflow. Yeah. So that's that. We will look at this one later again. So that's that, veins. Capillary, the feature of the capillary is that it's very thin. It only has a single layer of the membrane of the cell wall, and it allowed substance exchange. So quick question can be, which of the following vessels allowed substance exchange? Artery, capillary, veins. Is capillary allow substance exchange? So the vessel wall has a three layer, except the capillary. Capillary only have a single layer. Veins and artery all has 3 layers. The 3 layers are tunica intima, tunica media, tunica externa, or tunica adventitia. Tunica intima has the cell called endothelial cell. Tunica media has the smooth muscle cells. Tunica externa or adventitia basically is fibrous tissue to provide the structure. So let's take a look at the picture right here. So here you can see artery and the veins. Veins both have the tunica intima, so the single layer of the endothelium. Tunica media is one that you see the muscle, and tunica externa or tunica adventitia is just fibrous tissue to protect, to provide the structure. Yeah, so either artery and veins, you have 3 layers, and you should also know the cell, the primary cell in each layer. In the tunica intima, that's endothelium. In the tunica media, that is the smooth muscle. So this one, you have the smooth muscle. Artery, this is showing you the artery. Tunica intima, you have the endothelium. Tunica media, this one you have the smooth muscle. And tunica externa, just fibrous tissue, basically. Yeah. So, and then here is the capillary. Capillary, you can see that it only has single layer. What's missing here are smooth muscle. We don't have the tunica media. We do have a little bit membrane. We call it basement membrane to wrap it, keep them all together. But we don't consider that's a layer. So it's single layer, and that single layer basically is tunica intima because it only has endothelial cells right here. And the capillary allows substance exchange. It's porous. It's only a single layer, so things can easily diffuse from the vessel into the surrounding tissue. You can deliver the oxygen out. You can also transport CO2 back to the vessel. So capillary is a place where you can have the substance exchange. So that's that. So that's everything you need to know about the cardiovascular system. All right. And let me know if you have any questions. Uh, See you next time. Bye bye.